Hi, my name is Mick Berry. I'm the Southeast Wexford coordinator for Coastwatch Ireland. Coastwatch is an Irish coastal environmental NGO established by Karen Dubsky some time ago and operates from Trinity College, but is Island of Ireland survey. The Coastwatch survey itself is a citizen survey that ideally starts from the 15th of September to the 15th of October each year. COVID obviously played havoc with that last couple of years, but we still got it across the line, Coastal units are broken up on a map every 500 meters. So you have 2 units every kilometer, surveyed by volunteers, citizens, under the guidance of a local coordinator, who in turn is sort of guided by the more academic of the community. The data is fed through Trinity College. There's an annual report. We all get together a month before the report comes out and tease out any problems that we have or inconsistencies. So what it does is it gives an overview of the state of our coast on a yearly basis. And being on a yearly basis, you can draw comparisons, and it's on-the-ground stuff, so it's pretty accurate, Can be a bit patchy sometimes if we don't get chunks of the coastline done, but in general, it gives a good overview. Coastwatch is also a self-educator in that the way a parent or a school teacher can bring kids out and they're teaching themselves the whole time, they're educating themselves the whole time. It's a great thing to do, to get kids. It's important to get kids out rock pooling and walking the beach early, and ID and stuff. We've another group as well, local group, that we try and get involved, and it goes, we've different groups. We've kids groups where the mothers and all come out, then we have older groups, and then we have sort of people who have more free time, like retired people can bring great expertise to the whole thing. There are some of the groups there now. It's important to get the politicians involved. Most of them wouldn't know what seagrass is, there's a lack of knowledge on the whole thing. There's some local politicians and the ambassador from Austria, that's Karen herself, and then there's the transitional year students is a good project to involve, because they do cleanups on the beach and getting them out on the beach. I was amazed when I got them out. Some of them never rock pooled, and these are teenage kids and didn't know what a rock pool even was, and they're only living less than 5 kilometers away from the beach, So it's a great educator, and education is the key factor in this whole thing, if you're trying to save something, you want to know what you're saving. You want to at least be able to ID it, Talk a little bit about why is it so important? What is seagrass? Number it is, what does it look like? It's our natural solution to the global warming process through carbon sequestration. And people go on about the rainforest, how good they are for taking carbon out of the air, but the same amount of seagrass does it 15 times more efficiently. It takes 15 times more carbon out of, be it all blue carbon, and puts it into the ground. The advantage with seagrass, it can't go on fire like a rainforest, it can be, however, damaged, and this is what we're all about, looking after what we have. It's also on our doorstep. A rainforest is nowhere. I know no one that is in the island of Ireland, but this is on our doorstep, but we don't know. We don't know what's on our doorstep, I can go down to Kilmore Quay and Ask 20 fishermen what seagrass looks like. These are people who are at it every day of the week and they wouldn't be able to tell me. I can guarantee you. So the main thing is when you're going, it's a nursery as well. It's a great nursery for the juvenile fish of all types. You know, you can see on those plates there. You know, some of the favorites like it'd be wrasse. You know, you get the prawns anyway, but like you have these lads that are less rare. You know, they're juvenile fish, or they're shedding their silver skin. This is common, like snake locks an enemy. It's you'll see them by the hundreds in it. They'll love it. These little guys, the smaller flatfish love it because it's great cover for them. You know, there's a camouflage guy. He's you know, all those little crabs. There's another favorite. It's a sort of a relation of the seahorse. You know, it's the nearest thing we have to a seahorse that I've ever seen anyway so far. Anyway, it's pipefish, small crabs, and there's a rare one. It's such a little. It's a small clingfish, probably a Cornish sucker. It provides great protection for these, and that's one of the main things. It's also an anti-erosion sort of barrier to a point, you know. And another thing is clears and purifies the water around it. Right. Next thing is a little bit of preparation when we're going out hunting for the seagrass. You know, like you know, if you're going in a group, you want to know who's going with. You know, is it kids? Is it older people? What is it? You know, do they know what they're doing? You know, where to look for seagrass is usually the main indication is you'll have it washed up, but it could come from anywhere. You know, generally semi-sheltered areas, no major strong tidal currents. You know, that's not to say you won't find it in that, but these are some of the things. Suitable substrate, you know, it like sort of doesn't like really lovely sort of fine sand, you know, it tends to go in sort of semi-mucky or seaweedy areas, you know. You learn that as you go on, but now the when, this is very important. When is, you know, your day time to suit everyone, but if you're going, like, the main thing in this is low tide. You have to be conscious of when that tide is coming in. Be down there at least an hour beforehand if you're spending a bit of time sifting around, you know. Don't get caught out with the tide. It's all important, especially when you're doing Coastwatch. It's probably the single most important thing. And then, of course, your weather forecast. You don't want to be going out looking for seagrass like when there's no visibility, or it's lashing rain, or it's blowing a gale like a hurricane. So get your maps or get your apps or whatever you need, and you have a good forecast. You know, sunny is always ideal, calm, you know, that it's not too windy. You know, dress for the occasion. Or so your tide and time waits for no, and that is cliche, but it's very true. You know, that tide is all important. Next thing is how. You know, depending on where you're going, what do you need? You know, how is the logistics of looking for this stuff? You know, so we found like kayaks to be brilliant in up to about 3 meters of water. After that, you know, visibility cuts down. You know, you need snorkelers, but that's for the bigger stuff. You know. Fully charged phone, handy for taking pictures, plus your apps, your GPS apps on your phone, or your tracking apps, and, you know, camera, ID, all that crack. Also, like, know what you're doing when you're out in the water. Like, you know, if you're bringing people, just be aware of tides, life jackets, buoyancy, and stuff like that. You know, it stops any accidents that might happen. We'll be looking at two when we're doing our travels. Zoster Marina is the deeper one. There's a lot of it in Kilmore, which is actually intertidal, but most of it is underneath the water low tide, you know. And the variant of this is Augustifolia. It's zoster marine as well, but it's very different. And it can be confused with just ordinary, that's ordinary ulva, green seaweed, algae. And that is zoster marina osteofolia. That's and that's zoster nullity, a different one altogether. But we won't get into the big ID. Just these are the two we'll be looking. So we call it the bigger one is zoster marina, and then the one on the mud flats that we'll be looking at is Augustifolia. Right, mapping. We'll start with the least important, depth. Because we were limited on resources, like you know, we haven't got meters or electronic gear. We just found a pre-marked kayak paddle. It just does the job. Depth is not all important when you're reporting on these things, in the way that quarter of an hour after you measure depth, it'll be different depth. You know, the tide is coming in or the tide is going out. So that's the most practical, rather than messing around with string and weights and just another thing to have in the kayak and you know. So that was the most efficient way we found of doing it, up to about 3 meters, you know. The density, surface density, say like that, we found just having a hula hoop hanging on the back and throw it out there and just take a picture of it is the best, you know, and work out with your pi r squared how much seagrass versus, say, sargassum in that particular picture. Area we use the Coastwatch map. There's measuring tools on it. That's what the one we're using at the moment, and it's pretty good. It's it measures length, it measures area, and it measures it in hectares. Whatever you like, you can change it there. And you get it on coastwatch.org. If you go into coastal map, where it shows the coastal units, you'll find up at the top right hand side that measurement tool, and play around with it, and it'll be used for everything, you know. We also use Google Earth if we have reference points, just to sort of confirm there's St. Patrick's Bridge. Measuring tool is down on the bottom left hand side of Google Earth, you know. Position is sort of the probably most important thing. They are your GPS points. I use a thing called View Ranger, which is just recently transferred into a different crowd that's taken them over anyway. But if you go into View Ranger, you'll find it's a trekking map or trekking app, and it gives you GPS points, and you can refer back to them later on and apply them to the Coastwatch map if you want. They're all important when you're mapping out the thing. We also use drones, but drones are limited in the way that if it's a windy day, you know, you'll lose your drone, especially underwater, you know, if you haven't got. So there's one of St. Patrick's Bridge there, and it just quickly just mapping sargassum, that one, because okay. Now we'll be working from east to west, and we're going to start with Ballygrangans, which is a challenging enough one, you know. Ballygrangans is full of young zoster marina beds grown in kelp. It's very variable there, and there's a lot more work need to be done. The reason we were down there was there's a major bed in just on St. Patrick's Bridge, Kilmore Quay. So these are extensions of the beds in orange. The new beds we found will be in bright green, and the absence of a bed was already there. It was just in red there. This is a project we've done during last summer. Quite just trying different techniques of how to measure seagrass and weight, and the whole community joined in on that one. But Ballygrangans needs a lot more work, and it's very variable. You know, like it's challenging enough trying to measure seagrass further out, you know. It's Jim Hurley discovered that seabed in this that seagrass there at St. Patrick's Bridge, I think in the 60s, in the mid 60s, and it's still there, and it's very healthy, and it's very accessible as well. plus you're close to, from Kilmore Key. Like if you're wanting a demonstration, most of the Seagrass demonstrations are done at low water down there, There's Ballygrangans there. Now you see the different things. That's 4 meters of water. So we just can't, it's hard to do it with a kayak, and you need good sunshine for the visibility, but you will see it there. That's Karen there, and she's we find the kayaks to be best. They're just handy, especially for that area. There's some small, you can barely see it, seagrass growing among the kelp there, which is unusual enough. The Madjeen Reef is between Ballygrangans, say, and St. Patrick's Bridge. It's a very extensive bed as well. Probably around 70 acres there. And the depths are variable, very workable, from 0.05 meters to say 1.5 meters. It's a great place to go look at seagrass and get pictures and stuff like that. And as I say, low spring water is beautiful out there on a really calm day. We then go to the Keeragh Islands. Keeragh Islands, there we found two seagrass beds, the long-time Zoster Marina. One was reported by a Waterford kayak and now Coastwatcher, Brian Jacob. He was kayaking out off the spit there, and I went out to confirm it using that tracking app. So I started the app and I went around the bed, and that gave me an idea where it is. I pulled the map around. You'll see crosshairs there barely, and that gives the coordinates there, the GPS coordinates. And I can move that around. Once I have it tracked, it's there, and I go home then and I get the coordinates. All right. I also can bring them to the Coastwatch map, and I get the same thing, coordinates, match them, and I know exactly where it is then. I had to confirm that for Brian just because he wasn't sure was it seagrass. So I literally kayak out there with my phone, and I just done a quick video, and very clearly it's there, recorded, GPS tracked and mapped everything. It's about that particular bed is about, at low water, is about 1 3/4 to 2 meters in depth, and about 5 square meters, small enough bed, There was another bed I discovered when I was out fishing myself in the northeast corner of the Keeraghs. Again, it's about 30 square meters. I tracked and mapped it. It's a little bit deeper than the other one, and it's up over on the northeast corner there. Next, we go to Bannow Island. It's up here, and Bannow Island on the east side, we'll call it. Based on previous visits here, there was Zoster Nolty reported. I wasn't able to find it, so I put it down as absent there. I couldn't find it there, and I searched. Well, the main one in this inlet that we'll be talking about is Augustiafolia, the smaller phenotype. Bannow Island, same. I marched out to the perimeter of all where the grass was, the seagrass, and just mapped it. Brought the crosshairs again to get the coordinates in the center of the area, and you can see quite accurately there that there's no seagrass on the outside of that, but there is on the inside. Now when we say area, mapping that area, that's grand. You can bring it back to your Coastwatch map and map it exactly. But it could be patchy in parts, but you're talking about that's where the seagrass is within that area. We're not saying how the density at all. Again, telltale signs. We found all this chopped up after a storm, so we knew there was plenty of it out there. So it's only a matter of getting out there and marching around the muck. There's more of it there, you know. These guys are telltale too, but they will go after seaweed as well, not just seagrass, but they do like that Augustifolia type Zoster marina, you know. They're Brent geese. Sorry. Next, we're heading off to Salt Mills and Gortons. This is a massive area. Paul Green brought me out here to show me where, and when we went out there, we discovered that it was there was a lot more there than what we thought. We estimated roughly to be about 40 acres using the Coastwatch map there, you know. Again, and pretty dense, as you can see. There's what we found after the storm, piles of it. They're just washed up. Again, the geese, the telltale sign. And there's poor Paul, and he wading around in the muck there. But that's all seagrass there behind, you know. Again, I done a crosshair and done the latitude and longitude, and 40.6 acres. That's just a fair guesstimate, you know. But in good condition as well. Here it is, growing amongst some invasive spartina and green algae. So, and it's getting on quite well, you know. Next, then we'll go to Ingard Point. This is east of Feathered Dock, Feathered on Sea, very small bed. And it's only about, I'd say, 1,800 square meters. That's it. I waded around there to get the exact bed, and it's about waist depth at low water. Very, very doable, like, to just wade out there. The reason we were there is because we've just found a lot of stuff washed up around the place. The smaller version, and this is the longer version now, the Zoster Marina, and we just found that it was a good, healthy bed of it. Very little epiphyte growth, you know, on it. Very clean looking, you know. So we reckon that that's a pretty new bed as far as we can see. This is the stuff that's been washed up the whole time. There's a lot of it found in Bag and Bun Beach. Couldn't find any grass. Asked a lot of people, you know. That's Bag and Bun Beach there. Again, we mapped it off Coastwatch map, and it's out around here, this area here. Interesting, Bag and Bun Beach, there's a commercial kayaking thing going on there, and I'd asked those guys for the last couple of years to keep an eye to watch for any seagrass as they were kayaking or bringing visitors out. And Dahl said no, hadn't seen any this year at all. And yet I found a small 2 meter square patch in a depth of about 2 meters of water right over where they launched the kayaks. So again, that's a good example, and these are sort of people from all over the place, not just Ireland, like, they're, you know, so just as a classic example of the lack of education of what seagrass is, you know, and it's not just an Irish thing either, you know. But so we really need to make people aware what it looks like and the importance of it, and that's only going to be done through education, you know. And, you know, like, this is the solution to our climate change within our area, you know. So that's about the size of it. That's how we done it anyway. Anyone wanting to join the hunt, it continues this summer again, and it's very easy. Just I've no problem showing anyone, you know, just give me a bit of notice, and Paul Green will have the contact numbers and all that. Thanks for listening to me.